All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me, Tech Ty, for Talking Tech with Ty. And we have another founder series. And today I am speaking with Rahim Fazal, who is the CEO as well as founder of SV Academy, or Silicon Valley Academy, also affectionately known as SV Academy. And before I further introduce him and bring him in, I just want to thank everyone for being here and for all the comments and all the likes and just helping to support this series so we can assist upskillers and reskillers and career professionals in general with their personal and professional transformation. So without further ado, hello, Raheem. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me here. It's so incredible that you are creating space for these kinds of conversations right now.
Well, thank you so very much. As you know, I'm someone who's interested in upskilling and reskilling. I have done 3 boot camps since 2015. I am interested in education, tech education, and things of the like. So, for those of you who don't know, I want to let you know that I am actually an alumna of SV Academy. I did this great program, which is a tech sales or software sales training program. I did it in October of 2020 and effectively started my career as a software salesman, as a BDR or business development representative. There's also a similar title, which has a few nuances in it. That's an SDR or sales development representative. So it was Raheem's program that I actually was an alumna of. And this is another reason why I really wanted to have him on Talking Tech with Ty. So I'm going to let him actually give more information. So Raheem, like,
Yeah.
why SV Academy? Um, it's just very important to know what is the genesis, what is the impetus when people create their own spaces and invite others to them. What did you
Mm,
see out in the world that inspired you and also your co-founder, Joel Scott, to
mm.
create a program like this?
Yeah, I think for both Joel and I, our lives have been completely transformed through the tech industry, but we're both not coders. And a lot of the
Mm,
conversation and pathways that we focus on have traditionally been around coding or software engineering, which are incredible for, a segment of people that are really excited about that. And there are lots of people like that. But I think for both of us, and when I think about myself, that was never my interest. I'm not a coder. I didn't want to sit in front of a computer, in front of a desk all day long, just, like interfacing with a machine. Yeah, it's like
yeah,
that's just not me. Like I love people and I wanted to be out with customers. And for me personally, a lot of it just comes down to where I started, right? So
mhm,
uh, I'm from a non-traditional background myself. I grew up in government housing.
mhm,
I don't have an undergraduate degree. Uh, my job before getting into tech was working at McDonald's and getting fired from McDonald's. So I had like a retail sales service. I had some hospitality experience,
mhm,
and I really, wanted to come up with pathways for people, who came from backgrounds like my own, who came from communities like my own. Um, and I didn't know that there was a way to break into this industry besides coding until I kind of stumbled upon sales myself.
absolutely. And I really like that you are going there because for those of you who haven't connected with Rahim on LinkedIn. And love LinkedIn. I always mention LinkedIn, and we're on this platform. His byline on his LinkedIn profile is a former Oracle exec and McDonald's crew member. So he's really someone who evangelizes the journey, and like really saying that, okay, I may have been hired and fired from McDonald's, but I'm still here. I still created, I still
Yeah,
navigated. So I
yeah.
think that is a big part of his story, and understanding that as well as a non-traditional background. So I'm always evangelizing once again that tech is for everyone and it's not just for coders. I'm a
Mm,
former software engineer, but I'm still not someone who is so obsessed with the code that I want to be click clacking behind a screen like you, which is why I moved into sales or moved into revenue,
mhm,
because I
mhm.
wanted to continue to be client facing, but wanted
Yeah.
to be kind of like that bridge between all of these great departments in tech or in selling a software service. So,
Mhm.
um, when you started SV Academy, like what were you hoping to achieve and accomplish?
Well, the big idea was really to help people not just identify these career paths that didn't
Mhm.
involve coding, but also to help people um, like radically expand their income in a short period of time, and then
Yes.
put themselves on a path in life where they could sort of take care of themselves, not just financially, but also build out a network, build out a set of skills, create resiliency in their life, so that they could then be more supportive to their own families, and then ultimately their own communities in which they live in. Because in order for us to do the job, to really break through what I call the elitism in the tech industry, it's not just
Absolutely.
about building the awareness, but it's also about you know putting people who come from the communities that we come from
Mhm.
in positions of power and influence, so that when the next generation, our kids and our kids kids are moving through their lives, uh, there will be a more diverse, more sort of more equity, um, more representation ultimately in our business leadership. And that's, I believe, like the bigger issue that has held many people back, including people from my own community,
Mhm.
for generations. And I think through the work that we're doing, um, the big idea is to help really change this, but not do it from the top down, but rather the bottoms up, through the success of the graduates and the community like yourself, which is why I'm here, to support, you know, individuals like you who are now helping carry the torch and open up pathways for way more people than I could ever do just myself, or Joel could ever do just by himself.
Absolutely, and you bring up a great point in terms of first community, and everybody knows I love community, as well as thinking more expansively about equitable solutions and
Yeah.
pathways, and going from grassroots to grass tops. So
I like
we
that.
also we also thank you really
I like that.
multiply, and it's those degrees of separation, but not only the separation, but having us come together. Max, we always talk about 10xing in tech, 10xing our profit, 10xing our customer base, but why not 10x, 100x, 1000x the influence of the people that are adding to the community of the tech industry by doing that? You have created a program that has incubated me. I'm creating a platform that is incubating someone else, and we continue
Exactly.
to 10x as we connect in our community. So you started this program, and here you are years later. Has it been everything you thought it would be, and where is it now as opposed to where you started?
Yeah, I mean, it's the
Business is
vision
changing.
and the it's changed. The vision and the mission are the same. Like that energy that led us to start S Academy. It feels as pure as it did 5 years ago before our first cohort. I think what's really changed though is the acceleration towards this big idea. So we thought that number one, in order to really create the systemic change we wanted to see in the world and in the workforce, in our communities, um, this would be a journey that where we would not really see the real leading indicators, like like the real the proof points, until
Yes.
decades and decades into the journey, just because it is such a big problem at such a great scale. None of us, of course, imagined that COVID was going to happen and it would have the type of like intensity and ultimate like change, and I think of as accelerant on a lot of the
Mhm.
forces that we really cared about as a big part of our vision. And so in some ways it's felt like we have sort of accelerated our journey by 5 or 10 years just through the last you know um, 24 months or 30 months
Yes.
that we've been living in this new world. And I think that's at the time it was really scary. If I think back to March 2020, it was really scary. But when I look back at it now, um, it's really clear that this has actually been one of the best things we could possibly imagine for our greater cause, because it's really put a light on the inequity, um, uh, but
Absolutely.
but also uh, opportunity of closing that inequity. So when you were talking about the 10xing, what was coming up for me is that I think a lot of business leaders now, I think a lot of employers are beginning to realize that they can actually 10x their business, 10x their revenue, 10x their growth by supporting a career pathing,
Hmm.
upskilling and reskilling of represented communities into their talent pipelines. And that is incredibly exciting, because I think had it not been for COVID, taken a much longer time for the business world to really wake up to this.
Absolutely. And that is where I was going next because I always mention COVID in these series because to me, it is continually the great disruptor. COVID accelerated the world, the inequities, the problems, the solutions
Yeah,
that we had in this world. And that's
yeah.
another thing where, businesses and programs and job trainings like SV Academy were around prior to COVID. And
Mm,
that's the thing, if they weren't there, then this expansion, they were prepared. You were prepared,
mm.
you were ready. Well, you weren't prepared for something you didn't know would happen, but you were still there, you were still existing,
Yeah,
able
yeah.
to navigate and move. So, I always think about the effects of COVID and amplifying, the need for more diverse, more
Hmm.
equitable, pipelines, and I actually had another
Yeah.
founder on earlier, who was Nora Hamada, who created Recruit Rise, which is a program for teaching people to do talent acquisition. And
Hmm.
now I think we're going to see kind of that pairing where talent acquisition
Mm.
is huge, is blowing up.
Hmm.
Well, we don't want to hear about the pipeline problem when SV Academy is here and has been training
Yeah,
people prior
yeah,
to the pandemic, during the
yeah.
pandemic. We're not even post-pandemic. So
Right.
there is no, "Oh, we can't find people," You can find people. Just look on
Oh
LinkedIn.
yeah.
We're
Yeah,
here.
exactly. 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 I mean, I think it takes, it takes the type of like the gravity of the shifts that we've seen in the world to really to really kind of create change on a day-to-day basis, on a grounds up level, where it's not just kind of the big headlines that we talk about. So for example, we've talked for some time about how Google and other large companies who are major employers in the tech industry have very low representation across underrepresented groups. I mean, in the single
Mhm.
digits, um, uh, for like years and years, and have made very little progress on that. Even to this day, they're still they're still at a level where they're well behind the commitments that they have made when they began to report on these issues. That being said, the the changes we're seeing in the workforce have created an opportunity for the people at the very ground level. For example, our graduates, folks
Mhm.
like people like yourself who are like coming out of the program, getting jobs very quickly, and then they're being promoted, 60% of them being promoted in the first 12 months. And you know what
Yes.
happens when they get promoted? I mean, one, they're putting more money in their pocket. So they are feeling, our graduates are feeling in a short way more financially stable, which I think is really important because charity begins at home. You can't help others, you can't pay it forward until you feel like you've really got your foundation set. But when
Mhm.
once that's happening, then our graduates are finding themselves in positions of influence um, where they are able to either help or make decisions around hiring in
Mhm.
a way that would never have been possible so early in their tech career. So it's not only that they are getting access to the career, but they are then finding themselves quickly in positions where they're able to help other people like you're doing to do the same thing. And then who are they? Whose resumes are they pulling?
Mhm.
What backgrounds, names, and we talk all about this unconscious bias and different ways we can use technology to solve it, and AI and all these things. But like, I think the best way of doing it is just putting people who come from those communities who are at the effect of unconscious bias into business where they're the ones responsible for acquiring talent, like, and leading the interview process and ultimately making the hiring decisions.
Absolutely. And these simple changes are sustainable, you know?
Hmm.
And also, you've been using certain language that I also like to highlight. So you talk about the shifts that have occurred, and those shifts are also in language, where we're not so much using minority to talk about non-white populations. We're using
Hmm.
underrepresented communities because
Hmm.
populations people have always existed. But if you do not recognize or even acknowledge people, we're talking about underrepresented now, which is a more applicable term for the people that have actually been repressed and oppressed
Yeah.
and who
Yeah.
couldn't get past ATS or applicant
Yeah.
track systems because they
Yeah.
have names like Rahim Fazal or Tariq Winnie.
Yeah.
So it's not
Exactly.
it's not about being it's not about not being qualified. It's not about, not applying for the jobs. If you can't submit a resume and get past applicant tracking because your name does not fit in a bucket that the person who's coded the applicant tracking system and they're thinking about,
Exactly.
Christian Judeo names,
Hmm.
or very anglicized names, even though we're in
Hmm.
America, which is not,
Hmm.
and let me not run too far, then how can we
No,
get,
it
you
resonates with
know?
me. I think it's really important to call it out.
So I always think it's applicable to, I always think it is very important, pardon me, to use applicable terms,
Hmm.
underrepresented, overrepresented, you know?
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
have to talk
Hmm.
about those things. So I really do appreciate you bringing those things to the forefront. Now, I also want to get into the impact that you're having with the program. You've
Hmm.
mentioned me, and I appreciate that because I'm an alumna and we're currently here talking. But I want to talk about more people that are moving from this program from its genesis, through its middle times to its current times and where they are ending up. Because once again, what a lot of people are starting to learn now is that being in tech does not only mean that you're coding, that you're engineer. I'm a former
Hmm.
engineer who moved into sales because I wanted to be more client facing.
Hmm.
I wanted to take the knowledge that I had and use that in a client facing role. So, SV Academy is no longer only just training people for software sales. You've also moved into customer success. And so I
Hmm.
want to talk about, what that means for people that are watching this and maybe interested and applying for SV Academy for either a software sales training or customer success training. What should
Hmm.
someone who is applying today know about getting out of this training
Hmm.
for tomorrow?
Yeah, it all started for us around 4.5 years ago now, where cohort 3 of our SDR program We had an incredible set of graduates, and several of them very quickly were promoted into customer success positions, which we weren't, I wasn't at the time sure that that was something that would happen as quickly as it did. And so if you look, for example, at Sasha Green from SDR3,
Sorry.
she,
Shout out Sasha Sunshine.
yeah. I just saw her this morning in our team meeting, and she is just like she is the light of our community in so many ways. And I remember her journey where she, she's uh, a grandmother, had bounced around between different careers, had sought different like educational outcomes out to kind of change her life. Before finding SV Academy, was homeless for a period of time, had gone through a lot of struggle. Somehow, heard about our program, didn't even know really what software sales really looked like or what it entailed, but was so committed to changing her life in that moment and doing whatever it took really to break through the walls to be successful for her and her family. Um, Within, I think, a year, it must have been 8 or 9 months, she was promoted into a customer success position. And customer success really is the kind of post sale part of the customer journey. So this is an organization that is responsible for supporting customers once they have become a company's customer, uh, making sure that they are happy with the products and services they're receiving, that they're taking full advantage of the products and services, and that they're ultimately growing, continuing to grow as the company's software has more and more to offer. Well, that is a role that has a lot of similarities to sales. I mean, it is at sales at its core is human centered problem solving, and so um, it's this incredible career path that also happens to be growing very, very fast. So it is the sixth fastest growing role on LinkedIn. And as we started to see graduates of our core programs get moved into customer success roles, we start to get more and more curious about maybe there's even other paths that we could begin to offer people, especially if there's someone like a Sasha who has uh, a great deal of prior work experience. It's just uh, that experience is not in the tech industry, but has supported customers in many different ways. It could be, working as a teacher, or it could be working at an insurance company, or it could be, working at a hotel, for example. These backgrounds, although you may not think that they have a lot of applicability in the tech industry, they have a tremendous amount of applicability. And in Sasha's case, and for a lot of people, they've found a home in our customer success program. So we launched that now, oh wow, like almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and we did it with a large technology company that has really helped create the customer success industry, called Gainsight. And it's just become uh, an incredibly popular and very successful program for a lot of people who are looking for a change, and are looking for, again, alternative paths to coding to make that happen.
Absolutely. And I want to give a recap of my question and Rahim's answer, because I just want people to understand that the SDR program, Sales Development Representative, and the CSM program, Customer Success Manager, it is the SDR portion is about the bringing in potential or prospective customers to the company so that you can show them the solution. So when Rahim talks about human focused and human involved problem solving, SDRs are the first people in the funnel that actually go out
Hmm.
there and source, vet, qualify, and bring in prospective leads for bringing together solutions. Once a company has decided that the software that someone is reaching out to them about is a great software and will work for them, the sale happens, the deal happens, and they come on board as a client. And then the CSM is someone who actually could help out in the implementation, but is more client focused on the back end after the sale has been processed and done, as Raheem said, to really make sure that someone is maximizing and optimizing the use of the product that they have purchased and are trying to implement within their organization. And another thing that I'd like to be very clear about is that we call it the tech industry, but we've already realized that every company will be a tech company. It is greater than the tech industry. Every company has to have a tech component. So that's why
Hmm.
we also need to expand our thought about what is tech. And Raheem also mentioned transferable skills. All skills, for the most part, are transferable. Communication skills, being able to speak to someone and actually have a conversation and understand what they're asking you and being able to provide it for them, or vice versa. You know, having the other transferable skills are relationship building, knowing how to listen and provide solutions and things of that nature. So it doesn't really matter what type of jobs you've had before. They're always transferable skills because there's a human to human connection. And I really do like that job training programs like SV Academy are really thinking about that and saying that these are skills that, whether you realize them or not, are transferable skills and are applicable to these roles that you may or may not have had exposure to. Another thing I want to get into is something that I see so often from underrepresented communities is the struggle aspect. Like,
Mm.
human beings we all have similar stories, but there's always adversity. But I feel like it is underrepresented communities that always have to highlight their struggle. And
Yeah.
sometimes, and
Yeah.
oftentimes, that struggle comes from lack of opportunity, you know, lack
Mm.
of access, which programs like SV Academy and other job training programs for reskilling and upskilling are providing solutions for. Human beings just don't come upon struggle and come upon adversity out of nowhere. So I always recommend people find those transferable skills, and that helps you find a program that can help you move from one job or to another job, or one career to another career. So as we get
Hmm.
ready to um, wrap up this wonderful founder series with Raheem, I just wonder, are there any other stories that you'd like to share with us of alumni of this program? As well as, do you have any upcoming events that you'd like to share? I do know that on a monthly basis, there are new cohorts
Hmm.
for SV Academy, once again in the STR program or the CSM program. So if you'd like to talk about how someone can apply for an upcoming cohort, we'd love to hear that, because I know there are probably people in the audience that are interested in applying.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. So if you go to the link below and you fill out, you share your name and email address with us, you'll get more information by email or phone, including a calendar of events. We have lots of events happening every single day, in fact, and we can help make sure you get an invitation to one of those. For example, more information on the programs we offer, how they work, when they're starting, how you can qualify for them, that kind of thing. And you'll hear directly from people like yourself who have gone through the program, can give you their firsthand experience on what it was like for them. In terms of stories, I think one of the things I found in my experience with SV Academy is that there are so many stories. There's just so many stories. Like, we have thousands of graduates. Each graduate has their own story. When you talk about the struggle and highlighting the struggle, many people like myself have not really talked about the struggle. We don't think there's a place for it in our conversations, and it turns out that there is, and there,
Yes.
and I think creating space to really give individuals an opportunity to share firsthand, what their journeys look like, I think is so important, for many reasons, but also because it helps people who can identify with those individuals' journeys see that they can also achieve the same thing, that there's a place for someone like them who's experienced the same type of twists and turns, because listen, life is not like a straight journey,
At
for any
all.
of us, and right, and for some of us, I think it's less straight, than others. So we had for our team, there are a couple of stories I want to highlight very quickly, which is every month for the SV team, we have some of our alums who come uh, into into the room. I would love to have you there soon, Ty. And they they share with the whole SV team, a deep kind of dive into their stories, and it's an opportunity for us to get to know the individuals that we're supporting in the industry at a much deeper level.
Mhm.
And we had Lupe and Kara, who graduated, to say 3.5 years, almost 4 years ago. They were in the same cohort. I think it was cohort 11, SDR 11, and they became friends in the program. They both ended up going to the same company called Pure Storage, which is a public company, and they helped one another, really leaned on one another in the first year of the job, and then after the first year, they began to get promoted and start to move in different directions. And so Lupe has moved into more strategic partnership type of work. It's called alliances,
Mhm.
and you can look that up. And then Kanshara has actually moved into IT to
Yes.
support like internal groups with their IT issues, and she leads a team there. And they both came, I think it was last week, to share their stories. And uh, because of Lupe, just because of limited time, I'll share with you Lupe's one story, and then if anyone's curious, they can follow up with me, and I can share some more stories like Kanshara's. But Lupe, her mom, uh, her mom, she's from Mexico, single mom, came to the U.S., raised Lupe. Um, uh, would take her to uh, the hospital where her mom was doing, you know, um, like cleaning and things like that, and taught Lupe how to sell tamales,
Love
to the
tamales.
other workers, at the hospital during the breaks when she was just like very young. And so she grew up, looking up to her mom, who was shouldering, not just the caretaking, but also like the financial responsibilities for the whole family, and actually picked up a lot of like her work ethic and her tenacity, and even her like sales skills in working with other people by selling tamales. And then um, and then Lupe uh, then found herself sometime later in the foster care system, and and that had its own struggle, and kept pushing through, and and ultimately was able to get herself in college, and graduate with a degree, and be the first person in her family to do that, and then discover SV Academy, and then, as I said earlier, get hired at this incredible company with now her best friend Kanshara, who is also in the program, and the two of them are now leading community resource groups at their companies. So Kanshara is leading the Afrotech Community Resource Group, and Lupe is leading the Latinas in Tech Community Resource Group at a company that is very overrepresented, with people who come from a certain background and certain schools and certain experiences. Uh, and they are now, from the inside out, creating the change that we need to see in the industry. And it's absolutely beautiful to watch them, just like, it's just awesome to see them like mix things up, and to create new ideas and spaces in what would otherwise have been a pretty homogenous, culture and employer. And I think for that reason, a lot of people are following their footsteps. Like thousands of people will follow in their footsteps because of the work they've been able to do, now that they're in the tech industry and thriving.
Well, Raheem, thank you so very much for your contributions to the overall landscape of this professional world that we're in with co founding SV Academy and supporting all the learners that you have in the program over the years. As we wrap up, just I also want to thank everyone for joining, where we talk about community, where we talk about connections. And as I always say, I hope everyone takes a moment to reach out to Rahim, but be gracious and understanding that when you send him a connection request or if you follow, to, you know, allow him time to respond or to
Oh, and
accept.
also let me know if you're watching this and that's how you learn about me or you learn about SV Academy and you want to connect on LinkedIn, let me know that you are watching here so that I
Yes.
know where you came from and I can welcome you.
Well, put a simple note in the add a note section for connection requests. And this has been Talking Tech with Ty, our founder series with Rahim Fazal of SV Academy. Thank you for joining us once again, and all the community, all the connection, and just giving us your perspective of the solution that you created where you noticed a problem in the overall industry. All right, y'all. See y'all later. Take care. Be well. Bye.